great house at Collinwood in the year 1840, a time when the deposed master of Collinwood, Quentin Collins, is on trial for his life. The charge, witchcraft. The penalty, beheading. On this night, Gerard Stiles, hoping to seal Quentin's fate, has committed a murder for which he knows Quentin will be blamed. Just moments ago, the body of Mordecai Grimes was discovered by a horror-stricken Carrie Stokes.
No! No!
Jeremy! Listen, you can't stay here. My father would have find you.
Jeremy, your father!
Carrie, what's wrong?
Jeremy, your father is dead.
He's what?
I came here to talk to him, hoping he'd understand about me and you. I found it over there.
Father! Father! He's dead. He's dead.
Jeremy, I'm so sorry.
How did it happen? He was never sick one day in his life.
When I first came in, I thought he had just fallen. The way he was moaning.
You mean he was alive when you came in?
Yes, he was.
Did he say anything before he died? Carrie, did he say anything to you?
Yes, he did.
Well, the police have been at Grimes's house for several hours now. Soon you shall be getting the coroner's report.
An important witness for the prosecution murdered to keep him from telling what he knows.
And will this finally finish off Quentin?
I don't see how we can lose, Gerard. Oh, by the way, who discovered the body?
Carrie Stokes. I was saving that as a bonus for you, Charles.
Oh, I like that. I like that very much.
I only wish that I could say that I had planned what it turned out.
Oh, it's no matter. I'll have the subpoena prepared at once. You know, it's curious. Just the other day, I was talking to Mordecai and telling him how useless his appearance in court would be. And now, in death, it would appear that he is going to win the case for it.
Barnabas, what's wrong?
Quentin, I have bad news for you.
What?
Mordecai Grimes is dead.
Dead? How did it happen?
No one knows. The coroner hasn't completed his report yet. The body was discovered late last night by Carrie Stokes.
How's this going to affect my trial?
As far as anyone knew, Mordecai Grimes was in perfect health. Suddenly, on the eve before his appearance in court, he dies. This is going to be a field day for Dawson.
What do you mean? Grimes was the last witness for him. Who else is he going to call to the stand?
I have no idea. But I know one thing is certain, that he's going to do his best to attribute his death to witchcraft.
Mordecai Grimes could have dropped dead of a heart attack. Perhaps the coroner's report will even show that.
Or it may say that the cause of death is unknown. That's all Dawson needs.
Well, even if that happens, I don't see how he can prove it.
Neither do I. We both know how Dawson cherishes the element of surprise.
Well, we've overcome his other surprises. We'll do the same with this one.
Let's hope so. All we can do is wait. The next move is his.
come to order. Mr. Dawson, you may resume the case for the prosecution.
Your Honor, I believe that the court has been informed that Mordecai Grimes, whom I had intended to call as a witness this morning, suffered an untimely death last night.
Are you saying, Mr. Dawson, that you are prepared to rest your case?
I most certainly am not, Your Honor. Quite the contrary. I, in fact, intend to call 2 entirely new witnesses, because I feel I can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that Mordecai Grimes met his end at the hands of a whim of sorcery, and that the murderer sits in this courtroom.
I object, Your Honor. This court is not a forum for Mr. Dawson's opinions.
I agree completely, Mrs. Collins. Now, we will get on with the case, Mr. Dawson. Are you prepared to call your first witness?
I am, Your Honor. The prosecution calls Miss Carrie Stokes to the stand.
Carrie Stokes, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Miss Stokes, were you acquainted with Mordecai Grimes?
Yes, I was.
Will you tell the court when you last saw Mordecai Grimes?
Last night,
Where?
at his house.
And will you tell the court what you saw at the Grimes house last night?
Well, at first I didn't see anything. I called for Mr. Grimes, but he didn't answer. I heard a moaning sound, and I looked around. And I found Mr. Grimes on the floor.
And did you realize at that point that he was dying?
No. At first I thought he had a bad fall. But then
Then what, Miss Stokes?
I saw the look in his eyes. And I knew. I never saw anything like that before.
Will you describe that look?
Something had changed in his eyes. His pupils were like half moons. It reminded me of a frightened animal.
And it was at this point that you realized he was dying.
Yes.
Miss Stokes, how much time passed before Mordecai died?
Not more than a minute.
And in that time, did he say anything to you? Well, Miss Stokes, did he or didn't he? Will the court please direct the witness to answer the question?
Miss Stokes, you are obliged to answer the counsel's question.
Yes. He did speak to me before he died.
Will you tell the court the dying words of Mordecai Grimes?
No! I can't! I can't do
Miss
it.
Stokes, you have taken an oath to tell the whole truth. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Then you must tell us what Mordecai Grimes said just before he died.
He said, Quentin Collins. Quentin Collins. Quentin didn't kill him. I know that.
Miss Stokes.
Quentin isn't guilty of anything. He wouldn't hurt anyone. You must believe that.
I want the witness remarks stricken from the record, Your Honor.
They shall be stricken.
I have no further questions. Your witness, Mr. Collins.
The defense has no questions, Your Honor.
And Miss Stokes, you may step down.
Your Honor, I call the court's attention to this autopsy report prepared by the county coroner. It established the fact that Mordecai Grimes was in excellent physical health. There were no visible marks on the body, and the cause of death is officially stated as unknown. The prosecution submits that a mysterious death such as this can be caused by only one thing, Your Honor, an act of sorcery.
Objection! This is pure conjecture on Mr. Dawson's part.
Objection sustained. Get on with your case, Mr. Dawson.
I call Jeremy Grimes to the stand.
Place your hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. Jeremy Grimes, do you swear that the testimony you are about to give this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You recognize this letter, Mr. Grimes?
Yes, sir, I do.
Will you tell the court what it is?
It contains a note my father wrote last night before he died.
And to whom did he write this note?
To you, sir. And after he'd sealed the envelope, he asked me to deliver it to you at your home.
And did you do that?
Yes, sir, I did.
Your Honor, I will now read the contents of this most urgent message written by the deceased before he died. Dear Mr. Dawson, it is imperative I see you at once, for I have uncovered new evidence of a most serious nature. Evidence which I am convinced will prove beyond all doubts the guilt of Quentin Collins. I feel we must discuss this matter before the resumption of the trial tomorrow. Please come as soon as possible. Mordecai Grimes. Mr. Grimes, is this your father's handwriting?
Yes, sir, it is.
When your father handed it to you to bring to me, did he seem to be in good health to you?
Yes, he was.
Was there ever a time within your memory when your father was anything but physically fit?
Never.
Your witness.
Mr. Grimes, when your father gave you that letter last night, was it sealed?
Yes, it was.
So you never knew the contents of that letter?
No, I didn't.
Did your father tell you the contents of that letter?
No, he didn't.
So, the only two people that had any knowledge of that letter at all were your father and Mr. Dawson. Now, one of those men is dead.
Your Honor, I resent these implications.
I only want the court to take note of how conveniently the course of this trial has been altered in the past 24 hours.
And I would like to have the court take note of the fact that the counsel is out of order.
Agreed. Now, that last remark will be stricken from the record. Go on.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Then you may step down. Call your next witness. Mr. Dawson.
Your Honor, the case for the prosecution rests.
Mr. Collins, you may present the case for the defense.
Your Honor, there is only one man here who can tell the complete truth as to the matter of guilt or innocence. And I refer to the defendant himself. Will Quentin Collins come to the stand? You say you argued with Mordecai Grimes.
Yes, but everyone did. Mordecai was one who loved to disagree.
And when he refused to sell you his land, did you threaten him?
No, I did not.
Did you have anything to do with Mordecai Grimes's death?
Absolutely not.
One last question. The prosecution has made much ado about your interest in the occult. Has this interest ever motivated you to practicing what is known as the black arts?
I have never practiced witchcraft in my life. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't even know how.
Thank you. Your witness.
Mr. Collins, it has already been established that Desmond Collins returned to this country with the legendary head of the warlock due to Zachary. Isn't it true that he searched all over the world for that head and brought it here at your request?
It was a request.
Just
that
answer
I
the question,
casually-
yes or no, Mr. Collins. Did you ask him for it or didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Why, Mr. Collins? Will you tell the court why you wanted that head?
No specific purpose. It was merely curiosity.
Oh, it was merely curiosity. You hadn't heard that the head was said to have certain powers?
Yes, I had heard that.
But you weren't interested in those powers at all, were you, Mr. Collins? You were motivated simply out of curiosity.
That is all. I thought
Oh, come on, Mr. Collins! Isn't it true that you long to have such powers?
No, I did not.
Well, I submit that you did. I say that Desmond Collins brought that head to you,
and that you use the powers of the warlock Judah Zachary as a convenient way of disposing of your enemies. I say those powers were used as an instrument of murder. They were responsible for the deaths of Lorna Bell and Randall Drew. They also struck down the jailer's wife and Mordecai Grimes, and you cannot deny it.
I do deny it, and I do deny it. And furthermore, I'm sick and tired of your lies and insinuations.
The defendant is out of order, Your Honor.
The only person who's out of order here is you. You're not a lawyer, you're an executioner. And it'll take more than your vicious lies to strike me down. And when I get through with this, I'll deal with you.
All right, all right. You're out of order, Mr. Collins. Now, one more outburst like that from you, and you'll be held in contempt. Go on, Mr. Dawson.
Well, Your Honor, I believe that the defendant himself has given a more adequate demonstration of what I was trying to prove. I have no further questions.
The witness may step down. Does the defense wish to call another witness?
The defense rests, Your Honor.
Very well. And I assume that both counsels are prepared to give their closing remarks. Mr. Dawson.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defendant is here charged with the practice of witchcraft. Now, not opinion, but facts support the prosecution's contention that he is guilty as charged. Quentin Collins was the last person to be seen with Lorna Bell before she was found murdered. He was discovered standing over the dead body of Randall Drew. Both the victims bore the brand of the Devil's Mark, the same symbol found on Quentin Collins' own ring. It has been established that Quentin Collins actually believed that he held some power over time itself by the construction of a strange staircase capable of leading one into the past or into the future. It is an incontrovertible fact that he possessed a mysterious pagan head. Prosecution contends that he has used the powers of this head of Judah Zachary for his own evil purposes. In fact, we are dealing here with the living embodiment of the warlock Judah Zachary, a man who swore eternal revenge against all his enemies, just as Quentin Collins swore revenge towards me in this courtroom a moment ago. Finally, I submit that he is guilty of the murder of Mordecai Grimes, who had found evidence that he intended to use against the defendant. Using the considerable powers at his command, he struck that man down as one would strike down a helpless animal. I ask the court to find the defendant guilty as charged.
Mr. Collins.
Your Honor, what Mr. Dawson claims is fact has either been hearsay or the crudest sort of circumstantial evidence. Not one of his witnesses is truly a witness in the strict sense of the word. Yes, the defendant was the last person seen with the dead body of Lorna Bell. Yes, he was discovered over the body of Randall Drew. Yes, he did argue and fight with Mordecai Grimes. But this man did not kill any one of them. And no one alive can say with any conviction that he did. Now, that is the only incontrovertible fact in this case. And on the basis of that fact alone, the defense fails to see how the tribunal can return with anything but a verdict of not guilty.
Thank you, gentlemen. Well, the tribunal is ready to begin its deliberations. Court is recessed until such time as this tribunal is ready to render its verdict.
Jeremy? I thought you might want to know the judges have gone in to make their decision.
I don't see what there is to decide.
What do you mean?
Quentin Collins is guilty
How can you say that?
because he killed my father.
You don't really believe that, do you?
My father said so himself just before he died. That's what you told the court. And me.
But your father was wrong in what he said. How could Quentin harm your father from the jail cell?
He could if he's what they say he is. A warlock. And I believe he is.
I never heard you talk like this before. You sound just like...
Just like what?
like your father.
Maybe I should have started listening to him a long time ago. If I had, then maybe he'd be alive now.
You can't blame yourself.
I'm not. I'm blaming Quentin Collins. And I hope they execute him.
I can't believe you mean that. I don't want to believe it.
The court will come to order. Gentlemen, the tribunal has deliberated and arrived at a verdict. The defendant will stand and hear the verdict of the court.